Admiral Park Hyun stared at the massive viewing window of the Galactic Council station, watching Earth's blue marble hanging in the distance like a jewel against the void. Behind him, the conference room buzzed with alien voices, speaking in dozens of languages, but all saying the same thing. Humanity's time as a galactic power was over. The holographic display projected the Terran Restriction Accord in brilliant gold letters that seemed to mock every human in the room. Each word had been crafted like a prison bar, designed to keep humanity locked away from the stars they had fought so hard to claim. Article 7, Councillor Veltar continued, his forearms gesturing dramatically as his insectoid voice clicked, with barely contained glee. No human vessel shall exceed corvette classification, no crew complement above 200 beings, no weapon systems capable of planetary bombardment. Captain Kim Soo-jin sat rigid in her chair, her knuckles white as she gripped the armrests. She had commanded the battle cruiser Soul's Pride during the final battle at Proxima Station, watching as her ship's guns carved through enemy formations like a hot knife through butter. Now they wanted her to pilot cargo haulers and patrol boats. The Velkari representative's translator buzzed as it converted his chittering into standard galactic. Humans have proven themselves too, aggressive for unrestricted military development. The Council has witnessed what your species calls total war. We cannot allow such destruction to spread. Ambassador Lee Dong-wook, Earth's chief diplomat, signed each page with steady hands, despite the sweat beading on his forehead. 3 years of brutal conflict had ended, with humanity's fleets scattered and their colonies blockaded. They had no choice but to accept these terms or face complete annihilation. The inspection protocols are quite reasonable, added the crystalline, Zephyrian delegate, its voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Random facility checks, technology audits, and full disclosure of all research projects. Surely Earth can accept such minor oversight. Minor oversight. Hyun almost laughed at the phrase. They wanted to turn humanity into a supervised species, watched and controlled like dangerous animals in a cosmic zoo. The irony wasn't lost on him. The same aliens who had once begged for human assistance against the hegemony war were now terrified of their former allies. Captain Yu Min-soo, commander of the destroyed dreadnought Busan Thunder, leaned forward in his chair. What about our existing vessels? The ships already in service? Veltar's compound eyes gleamed with satisfaction. All capital ships will be decommissioned within 6 months. Destroyers and above are to be surrendered to neutral parties for peaceful dismantling. Your crews will receive generous compensation, packages and alternative employment opportunities. Alternative employment, like they were firing office workers instead of disbanding the most effective military force the galaxy had ever seen. Hyun watched as his fellow officers exchanged glances, each face showing the same mixture of rage and helplessness. The signing ceremony dragged on for another hour, with each alien representative adding their own flourishes and commentary. The Thrakari ambassador made a speech about galactic peace. The Unified World's delegation presented ceremonial gifts. The whole display felt like a funeral where the corpse was expected to smile and thank the mourners. As the final signatures were applied and the accord became galactic law, Hyun noticed something interesting. The aliens were celebrating, but they were also nervous. Their body language, the way they kept glancing at the human delegation, the subtle positioning of their security details, they were still afraid. Good. Fear kept enemies honest. The reception, afterward, was a masterpiece of diplomatic theater. Alien dignitaries mingled with human officials, making small talk about trade agreements and cultural exchanges, while carefully avoiding any mention of the fact that they had just neutered an entire species. The refreshment tables offered delicacies from a dozen worlds, but everything tasted like ash in Hyun's mouth. Admiral? Captain Kim Soo-jin approached with 2 glasses of Andromedan wine, keeping her voice carefully neutral. Quite the celebration. Indeed. Hyun accepted the drink, but didn't sip it. I hear the Outer Rim territories are experiencing something of a mining boom these days. Soo-jin raised an eyebrow. Mining operations do require experienced leadership, people who understand logistics, organization, and industrial efficiency. Exactly. Hyun finally smiled, the first genuine expression he'd shown all day. Been contacted by the Kepler Mining Consortium. They're looking for a new operations director. Asteroid extraction in the outer systems. Very quiet work. Very private. Sounds like the perfect opportunity for someone looking to retire from military service, Sujin replied, her own smile sharp as a blade. I imagine they'd need safety inspectors too. Personnel with experience in structural engineering and equipment maintenance. Around them, alien delegates continued their victory party, oblivious to the quiet conversation taking place just meters away. They had won this battle, imposed their will on humanity, and secured their vision of galactic peace. But they had made one critical error in their calculations. They assumed that a treaty signed under duress would be honored by a species that had never truly surrendered to anyone or anything in their entire history. They believed that paperwork and legislation could contain the same creatures who had crawled out of caves to conquer their own world, then reached for the stars themselves. As Hyun and Sujin walked toward the docking bay, passing groups of celebrating aliens, neither spoke of mining equipment that could be repurposed or asteroid facilities that could hide construction projects, or the thousands of discharged military personnel who would need new employment in the Outer Rim territories. They didn't need to. Some things were better left unsaid, at least until the time was right to say them very loudly indeed. The mining shuttle, Prosperity's Edge, docked with mining station Echo 7, just as the artificial dawn cycle began illuminating the asteroids. Surface, Lieutenant Commander Lee Min-ho guided the small craft through the entry bay, past massive ore processing units that hummed with apparent industrial purpose. Any casual observer would see exactly what they expected: another boring rock extraction facility in the middle of nowhere. But Min-ho knew better. As he walked through the main corridor, the familiar rumble of excavation equipment filled his ears, a constant thunder that never stopped. The sound served two purposes. It convinced inspectors that serious mining was happening, and it masked the real work taking place in the deeper tunnels. Commander Lee. Engineer Choi Da-yoon practically bounced as she approached, her maintenance coveralls streaked with what looked like mineral dust, but was actually metal shavings from precision manufacturing. You have to see what came in on the latest supply, run from Earth. She led him through a maze of tunnels that twisted deeper into the asteroid's heart. To outsiders, the layout seemed random, designed purely for mining efficiency. In reality, every passage had been carefully planned to confuse visitors and hide the facility's true purpose. Emergency blast doors were disguised as safety barriers. Defensive positions looked like equipment storage areas, and weapon emplacements masqueraded as mining tool stations. They passed groups of workers who were officially registered as mineral extraction specialists or refinement technicians and structural engineers. What the employment records didn't mention was that every single person had military training. Former ship gunners operated drilling equipment that could easily be converted to particle beam arrays. Ex-marine engineers maintained excavation robots that were actually combat mechs painted in civilian colors. The gravity manipulators arrived this morning, Da-eun explained as they reached Storage Bay 7. Officially, they're for moving large chunks of asteroid material, but look at these specifications. She handed Min-ho a datapad showing technical details that made his pulse quicken. The gravitic units were rated for handling objects up to frigate mass, with precision controls that could grab and crush enemy vessels. With minor modifications, they would function perfectly as military-grade tractor beam systems. And these beauties, Da-yoon continued, leading him to another section where massive industrial lasers sat in reinforced cradles. Rated for cutting through the densest materials known to galactic science, the power output is just shy of what you'd find on a cruiser's main batteries. Min-ho whistled softly. How long to make the modifications? 2 weeks for full conversion, she replied with a grin. We've been practicing on the older units. Amazing how similar mining lasers are to ship-mounted weapons when you really think about it. They continued deeper into the asteroid, past workshops, where other mining equipment was being assembled. Missile fabrication units disguised as explosive charges for breaking up large rocks. Communication arrays that could coordinate fleet movements while appearing to manage mining operations. Even the life support systems were overbuilt to military specifications, capable of supporting 3 times the official crew complement. In the deepest chamber, accessible only through a hidden passage behind a fake mineral storage facility, Admiral Park Hyun stood before the crown jewel of their operation, the skeletal framework of humanity's first true warship, in 5 years, stretched before them, a monument to human determination and ingenuity. "Magnificent, isn't she?" Hyun said without turning around as Minho and Da-un approached. "Officially designated as Mobile Mining Platform 7, but I prefer her real name, the Terran Defiance." The ship was massive, easily matching the dreadnoughts that humanity had been forced to surrender years ago. But where those vessels had been obviously military, this one maintained the fiction of civilian purpose. Her fusion reactor was registered as a mineral processing plant capable of refining rare metals. Her weapon bays appeared to be cargo holds for storing extracted materials. Her armor plating was listed as radiation shielding necessary for deep space operations. Captain Kim Soo-jin emerged from behind a support beam, her official title of Safety Inspector, providing perfect cover for her real role as the ship's designated commander. "The reactor core went online yesterday," she reported. "Full power in all systems, and the Galactic Council's monitoring satellites can't tell the difference between our signature and a legitimate mining operation." "How are our friends in the other systems progressing?" Minho asked. Hyun activated a holographic display that showed the local star cluster. Dozens of points glowed green, each representing another mining operation scattered across human space. Station Echo 12 in the Vega system just finished their heavy cruiser. Echo 15 near Alpha Centauri has 2 destroyers ready for launch. Echo 23 is working on something special, a carrier designed to launch small craft that the galaxy thinks are just ore shuttles. Da-un pulled up construction schedules on her datapad. "At current production rates, we'll have a full battle fleet within 18 months. The galaxy sees scattered mining operations, but we're building the most powerful naval force in human history. The beauty of it," Soo-jin added, "is that we're using their own regulations against them. Every component, every system, every bolt meets galactic civilian standards. On paper, we're the most law-abiding mining consortium in the Outer Rim." Minho walked around the Terran Defiance, admiring the craftsmanship that had gone into maintaining the deception. Weapon ports were covered with removable panels marked as maintenance access points. The bridge was designed to look like a mining operations center. Even the crew quarters were laid out to match civilian vessel standards, while secretly accommodating military personnel. "What happens when the Council eventually figures it out?" he asked. Hyun's smile was cold as deep space. "By then it won't matter. They banned us from building warships, so we built mining equipment that happens to be armed. They restricted our military research, so we developed better industrial tools. They wanted to neuter humanity, but they forgot one crucial thing." "What's that?" "Humans don't follow rules we didn't agree to make." Hyun gestured toward the hidden fleet taking shape in asteroid fields across the galaxy. "They think they've caged the wolves, but all they've done is teach us to hunt in the shadows. And when the time comes to step back into the light, the galaxy is going to remember why they feared us in the first place." The rumble of excavation equipment continued its endless rhythm, masking the sounds of humanity, sharpening its claws for the day when the galaxy would need its protectors once again. The alert klaxons screamed across mining station Echo 7 as emergency. Broadcasts flooded every communication channel in the galaxy. Admiral Park Hyun rushed to the command center, still officially labeled as Mining Operations Control, where dozens of screens displayed incoming reports from across known space. Commander Han Ji-woo's face appeared on the main display, his usually calm demeanor shattered by what he was witnessing at the Centauri defense grid. Behind him, the bridge of his patrol vessel shook violently as weapons fire lit up the darkness of space. "All stations, this is Commander Han broadcasting on emergency frequencies." His voice cracked with static and fear. "Unknown contacts emerging from dark space, coordinates 77 Alpha. These aren't ships, they're alive. Massive organic structures, bigger than anything in our databases. They're moving in perfect coordination, like insects in a hive. The transmission cut to external camera feeds that made everyone in the command center step back in horror. The creatures emerging from the void defied everything they knew about spacefaring technology. Each bioship was the size of a city, its hull pulsing with veins of bioluminescent fluid. Tentacle-like appendages writhed from their surfaces, some ending in weapon organs that spat streams of corrosive plasma. Engineer Choi Da-eun pulled up tactical analysis on her workstation. Those organic hulls are registering incredible density. Readings. Whatever they're made of, it's tougher than our best armor composites. And look at their movement patterns. No engine signatures, no exhaust trails. They're propelling themselves through space like swimming through water. The bioships moved with predatory grace, surrounding the Centauri defense fleet in a formation that resembled a pack of hunters cornering prey. When they opened fire, their weapons weren't the clean energy beams or kinetic projectiles that galactic navies used. Instead, they launched living missiles that burrowed into enemy hulls before exploding in cascades of acid and electrical discharge. "They're not just destroying the ships," observed Captain Kim Soo-jin, her face pale as she watched the carnage unfold. "They're consuming them. Look at those feeding tentacles. They're literally digesting the wreckage, the Centauri defense." Grid's proud battleships, vessels that had once seemed invincible, were being torn apart like toys. Admiral Kesita's flagship, the Galactic Unity, managed to destroy 2 of the smaller bioships with concentrated fire, but for every creature that died, 3 more emerged from the darkness. The organic vessels seemed to learn from each exchange, adapting their tactics in real time. "Commander Han, fall back to secondary positions," Admiral Kesita's voice echoed across the battlefield. "All units implement Emergency Protocol 7. Abandon the outer perimeter." But it was too late. The bioships had surrounded the entire fleet, their coordinated assault leaving no escape routes. One by one, the proud vessels of the Galactic Council were being consumed by creatures that treated advanced technology like a meal to be devoured. Lieutenant Commander Lee Min-ho burst into the command center, his face grim. "Sir, we're receiving reports from 17 different systems. These things, the Krillian Hive, they're attacking everywhere at once. This isn't a raid or an invasion, it's a coordinated harvest." The main screen switched to feeds from across the galaxy. The crystal cities of Zephyros Prime were being dissolved by acid rain dropped from bioships in orbit. The industrial world of Mechanicus was covered in writhing organic growth that consumed metal and machinery alike. Civilian evacuation ships fled in panic, but many were caught by fast-moving hunter organisms that seemed to exist solely to prevent escape. "Estimated casualty reports are in the millions already," Da-eun reported, her voice barely steady. "These creatures aren't just destroying military targets, they're systematically consuming entire ecosystems. Planets, asteroids, even space stations, everything with usable biomass is being harvested." Admiral Park Hyun watched the systematic destruction of galactic civilization with cold calculation. This was exactly the kind of threat that humanity's hidden fleet had been designed to face. The irony wasn't lost on him. The same aliens who had neutered humanity 5 years ago were now facing extinction while their former protectors sat in disguised mining stations. The communication system chimed with an incoming priority transmission. Councillor Veltar's insectoid face appeared on screen, but his usual arrogance had been replaced by naked terror. His compound eyes darted frantically, and the background behind him showed emergency lighting and the sounds of evacuation alarms. "Earth Command, this is the Galactic Council Emergency Authority." Veltar's translator barely functioned through his panicked chittering. "We require immediate assistance. The Krillian threat exceeds all previous threat assessments. We need transport vessels for civilian evacuation, medical supplies for refugee camps, and industrial capacity for weapon production." Hyun let a long silence stretch before responding, his expression carefully neutral. "Councillor Veltar, I'm afraid you've reached the Kepler Mining Consortium. We're a civilian operation focused on asteroid extraction. Perhaps you meant to contact someone else." "Admiral Park, please." Veltar's composure cracked completely. "This is not the time for political games. Entire worlds are being consumed. The Council's combined fleets can't stop them. I think you're confused, Hyun replied calmly. I'm Director Park of a mining operation. The Terran Restriction Accord specifically prohibits human involvement in military affairs. We're just simple miners now, remember? That's what you wanted. Through the static of Veltar's transmission, they could hear the distinctive sound of bioship weapon fire striking the Council Station's shields. Emergency announcements echoed in multiple alien languages, all saying the same thing. Evacuate immediately. Director Park, Veltar's voice became a desperate whisper. I know what you've been building out there. The Council has suspected for months. We need those ships. We need humanity's help. Hyun exchanged glances with his senior staff. Captain Kim Soo-jin nodded slightly, while Engineer Choi Da-eun pulled up readiness reports for their hidden fleet. The moment they had been preparing for had finally arrived. Well, Hyun said slowly, a dangerous smile spreading across his face. It's interesting that you mention building projects. We have been developing some rather advanced mining equipment. Lately, industrial-grade systems designed for extracting difficult materials from hostile environments. Please, Veltar begged as another explosion shook his transmission. Whatever grievances exist between our peoples, surely they can wait until after we've dealt with this threat. Oh, I quite agree, Hyun replied. After all, it would be a shame if there was no galaxy left to argue about political treaties. Perhaps it's time for humanity to show the Krillian Hive what our mining equipment can really do. The first crack appeared on Mining Station Echo 7's outer shell at exactly 1447 Galactic Standard Time. What the galaxy had assumed was solid rock began splitting apart like a massive egg, revealing the sleek hull of a warship that had been growing inside for 5 years. Admiral Park Hyun stood on the bridge of the Terran Defiance as his flagship broke free from its rocky disguise. Chunks of asteroid shell drifted away in clouds of debris, each piece carefully designed to hide the true nature of what lay beneath. The ship that emerged was nothing like the elegant vessels favored by the Galactic Council, where alien ships curved like flowing water. The Terran Defiance was all sharp angles and aggressive lines. Her hull plates were thick and angular, designed to deflect incoming fire rather than avoid it entirely. Massive weapon turrets rotated into position, their barrels longer and heavier than anything the galaxy had seen since the last human war. Missile pods clustered along her flanks like metal fruit, each one containing enough firepower to level a city. All weapon systems online, reported Commander Yoon Jae-min from the tactical station. Particle beam arrays charging to full power, kinetic cannons loaded with depleted uranium rounds. We are ready for combat operations, Admiral. Through the main viewing screen, Hyun watched as dozens of other asteroids throughout the Kepler system began cracking open. Each rocky shell revealed another human warship, their true forms finally exposed after years of careful concealment. The galaxy was about to remember why they had feared humanity in the first place. All stations, this is Admiral Park Hyun of the Human Liberation Fleet, he announced on every frequency in known space. I'm sure many of you are surprised to learn that we've been somewhat creative with our mining operations, transmitting real ship classifications now. The communication boards across the galaxy exploded with incoming signals as military commands tried to process what they were seeing. Ships that had been registered as civilian mining vessels were suddenly broadcasting military identification codes, or processors became battle cruisers. Cargo haulers revealed themselves as missile destroyers. The entire human mining fleet had just transformed into the largest combat force anyone had seen in decades. Captain Kim Soo-jin's voice crackled over the fleet communication network from the bridge of the Soul's Revenge. All units, this is Captain Kim. I know we've been playing miners for 5 years, but it's time to remember what we really are. We're human. We don't surrender. We don't back down. And we sure don't let alien bugs eat our galaxy. Her ship was a masterpiece of deceptive engineering. What had appeared to be a simple heavy transport was actually a battle cruiser, with enough firepower to take on 3 council ships at once. Her cargo bays opened to reveal launch tubes for fighter craft that had been disguised as maintenance shuttles. Her industrial equipment rotated into position, revealing plasma cannons that could melt through battleship armor. Lieutenant Commander Lee Min-ho couldn't contain his excitement as his destroyer Daegu's Fury finished shedding its rocky camouflage. Galaxy Command, this is human mining fleet requesting permission to extract some particularly stubborn organic materials from Krillian space. We've developed some very effective mining techniques over the years. The silence that followed his transmission was deafening. Every alien command center in the galaxy was trying to understand how humanity had managed to build an entire battle fleet right under their noses. The Council's inspection teams had visited these mining operations dozens of times, never suspecting that they were walking through the construction yards of humanity's revenge. Engineer Choi Da-eun's voice came over the fleet channel from her position aboard the carrier Incheon's Wrath. All fighter squadrons prepare for immediate launch. Our mining shuttles have been upgraded with some interesting new equipment, pulse cannons, shield generators, and enough speed to catch those bioships by surprise. What the galaxy had thought were simple ore-hauling shuttles began emerging from hidden bays throughout the human fleet. Each small craft had been carefully designed to appear civilian while packing military-grade weapons and armor. They moved in perfect formation, their pilots trained in secret for years while officially working as cargo pilots and equipment operators. The Krillian bioships that had been terrorizing the galaxy suddenly found themselves facing an enemy they hadn't expected. The organic vessels had adapted to fight against the elegant, predictable tactics of the Galactic Council's fleets. They were not prepared for humanity's brutal, direct approach to warfare. The Terran Defiance opened fire first, her main batteries launching a stream of kinetic rounds that punched through bioship armor like it was paper. The organic vessels tried to regenerate the damage, but human weapons had been designed with this possibility in mind. Each round contained chemical payloads that prevented biological healing, turning the creature's own adaptive abilities against them. Captain Yu, Minsu's battleship, Busan Thunder followed up with a barrage of plasma fire that set entire bioships ablaze. The organic creatures screamed across multiple frequencies as their flesh burned, a sound that sent chills through every alien communication center monitoring the battle. Target the feeding tentacles first, Admiral Hyun ordered over the fleet channel. These things consume other ships to grow stronger, cut off their ability to feed, and they become just another target. The human fleet moved with clockwork precision, each ship knowing exactly where to position itself for maximum effectiveness. Years of secret training and coordination showed as they executed maneuvers that the galaxy hadn't seen since humanity's last war. They fought like apex predators finally released from their cage, efficient and utterly ruthless. Within minutes, the first wave of Krillian bioships was reduced to drifting organic debris. The creatures that had seemed unstoppable against Council forces were being systematically dismantled by weapons they had never encountered before. Galaxy Command, Admiral Hyun broadcast, as his fleet formed up for the next phase of their offensive. This is the Human Liberation Fleet. We're about to demonstrate why you should never try to cage apex predators. The miners are going back to work. The skies above Thessian Prime burned with the fury of 1,000 suns as the largest space battle in galactic history reached its climax. The planet's 3 moons cast eerie shadows across the battlefield where humanity's hidden fleet faced the full might of the Krillian hive in a fight that would determine the fate of every living world in the galaxy. Admiral Park Hyun stood on the bridge of the Terran Defiance, watching as his tactical display showed the impossible. Human ships charging directly into the thickest concentrations of bioships, while the remnants of the Galactic Council's fleets retreated to safe distances. Where alien commanders saw suicide, humans saw opportunity. "Sir, the Gwangju's bite is making her attack run," reported the communications officer, his voice tight with emotion. Commander Yoon Jae-min's corvette was little more than a speck against the massive bioship he was targeting, but what it lacked in size, it made up for in pure human audacity. The bioship, easily 10 times the size of Yoon's vessel, opened its feeding maw to consume what it perceived as easy prey. Organic tendrils reached out to grasp the small human ship, just as they had done to countless council vessels throughout the war. But Yoon had no intention of being digested slowly. For humanity, Yoon's voice echoed across the fleet channel, as his corvette disappeared into the creature's gullet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the bioship convulsed as its entire midsection erupted in nuclear fire. Yoon had overloaded his fusion reactor at the exact moment of consumption, turning his ship into a bomb that tore the massive organism apart from within. The explosion sent shockwaves through the Krillian formation, but more importantly, it sent a message that rippled through every human ship in the battle. This was how apex predators fought when their backs were against the wall. Captain Kim Soo-jin's Soul's Revenge carved through a cluster of smaller bioships with methodical precision, her weapons designed specifically for the kind of close-quarters brutality that made alien commanders faint. "All fighters form up on me," she ordered. "We're going hunting." The human fighter squadrons moved like schools of metal piranhas, their small size allowing them to dart between the bioship's defensive tendrils, while their upgraded weapons punched holes in organic armor. What the galaxy had dismissed as simple, mining shuttles revealed themselves to be some of the most lethal small craft ever built. Lieutenant Commander Lee Min-ho's destroyer, Daegu's Fury, found itself surrounded by 3 massive bioships, their feeding tentacles closing in from all sides. Instead of retreating like any sane commander would do, Min-ho ordered his ship to spin like a drill, using his vessel's armored hull to slice through the organic appendages while his gunners targeted the creature's nerve clusters. "These bugs picked the wrong species to mess with," Min-ho laughed over the comm as his ship broke free, leaving 3 crippled bioships drifting in his wake. "Humans don't retreat. We get creative." But it was engineer Choi Da-eun who pulled off the most spectacular maneuver of the entire battle. Her support vessel, Daejeon's Hammer, had been equipped with massive gravitic mining charges designed for breaking up asteroids. As a formation of 12 bioships moved to engulf a damaged council cruiser, Da-eun positioned her ship directly in their path. "All ships clear the area," she broadcast calmly. "I'm about to demonstrate some advanced mining techniques." She triggered every gravitic charge simultaneously, creating an artificial gravity well that collapsed space itself into a crushing singularity. The bioships, caught completely off guard by weapons they had never encountered, were dragged into the gravity well and compressed into a ball of organic matter no larger than a fighter craft. Da-eun's laughter echoed across the fleet channel as her ship was caught in the gravity wave. "Worth it," she shouted, as the Daejeon's Hammer was torn apart by the same forces that had destroyed the enemy formation. Her sacrifice had eliminated an entire Krillian attack wing in a single devastating blow. The tide of battle turned as human tactics proved too unpredictable for the Krillian hive to counter. The bioships had evolved to fight organized, predictable fleets that followed standard galactic military doctrine. They had no answer for humans, who treated their own ships as expendable weapons and fought with a creativity born from pure spite. Admiral Park Hyun watched as the remaining Krillian forces began to falter. Their perfect coordination, once their greatest strength, became a weakness as human ships exploited every gap in their formations. The bioships that had seemed unstoppable were being systematically dismantled by an enemy that refused to follow any rules of engagement. "Sir, the enemy is beginning to withdraw," reported the tactical officer. "Long-range sensors show bioships retreating toward the edge of the system." Hyun smiled grimly. "Let them run. Make sure they understand exactly what they're running from." The Terran Defiance and her escort ships pursued the retreating Krillians to the system's edge, firing parting shots that sent clear messages. This galaxy was protected by something far more dangerous than the creatures had anticipated. The surviving bioships limped into dark space, carrying with them the knowledge that they had encountered apex predators who viewed warfare as an art form. As the immediate threat ended, rescue ships moved through the battlefield collecting survivors and salvaging what they could. The human fleet regrouped around Thessian Prime, their ships scarred but victorious. They had proven something that the galaxy would never forget. Humanity's spirit could not be broken by treaties or restrictions. Councillor Veltar's transmission arrived as Admiral Hyun was reviewing casualty reports. The insectoid aliens compound, eyes showed a mixture of gratitude and barely contained terror as he spoke. "Admiral Park, The Galactic Council extends its deepest thanks for your intervention. However, we must discuss the matter of the Terran Restriction Accord. The treaty clearly states— What treaty? Hyun interrupted with the voice of someone who had just saved the galaxy and wasn't in the mood for political games. I'm afraid I don't recall signing any military restrictions. Captain Kim, do you remember agreeing to any limits on our defensive capabilities? Captain Kim Soo-jin, her face still streaked with smoke from the battle, shook her head with mock innocence. Just some paperwork about mining quotas and asteroid extraction rights, Admiral. Nothing about military vessels. Veltar's translator struggled to process his agitated chittering. But the inspections, the restrictions, the decommissioned ships. You inspected mining operations and found mining operations, Hyun replied calmly. The fact that our mining equipment happens to be extremely well armed is just good engineering. After all, space is a dangerous place. As the transmission ended, Admiral Park Hyun looked out at his fleet spread across the star system. Ships that had been hidden in asteroids for 5 years now flew openly, their true nature finally revealed. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson in human history. When you try to cage apex predators, you had better make sure the cage can actually hold them. The stars themselves seemed brighter now.